Failure like that can get you introspective. I studied every self-help book on the planet, every business book, you name it, I was reading it, studying it.
The real problem wasn't marketing, it was how the calls were being handled.
Within a month, his call conversions were up by 20%.
Every call today is recorded and under the microscope.
So I take that $50,000, that 1% of top line revenue, and I times it by 10. Why? Because I just increased my call conversion by 10%, and I get $500,000.
Success starts with the first phone call.
If they're feeling like it sucks, guess what? It sucks. And for you to say anything else, make the customer feel like you don't get them.
This is AI and Marketing for Home Service Pros, the show for contractors who want to grow without wasting time or money. If you're in roofing, HVAC, plumbing, or any home service business, we break down how AI and modern marketing can help you book more jobs, close more leads, and build a business that runs without babysitting every task.
Most contractors spend thousands on marketing and ads only to have those leads vanish the moment the phone rings. My guest today has built his career on fixing that exact problem. I'm joined by Brigham Dickinson, founder of Power Selling Pros. Brigham started out selling SEO and PPC, but when a client told him your leads are no good, he realized the real problem wasn't marketing, it was how the calls were being handled. That moment launched a company that has trained thousands of CSRs, dispatchers, and techs to book more calls and deliver better customer experience. In our conversation, we dive into why CSRs are the most overlooked growth lever in contracting, how every call today is recorded and under the microscope, and why AI alone won't save you. Brigham explains where AI fits best and why empathy, emotional intelligence, and human connection still win the day. You'll hear his Chick-fil-A versus McDonald's analogy for contractors, the three emotional needs every customer has, and how to double your booked calls without spending another dollar on marketing. If you ever felt like your marketing ROI doesn't match your investment, this episode will show you the truth. Success starts with the first phone call. Hey, what's up? This is Mauricio Cardinal with Contractor Marketing Pros, and I'm here with Brigham Dickinson from Power Selling Pros. I'm super excited to have him on. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Mauricio. I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. So let's get going. So Brigham, you started selling SEO and PPC a long time ago. And one of the things we talked about last time, you said in that story is that the person told you, oh, the leads weren't good. And you kind of found out a little bit more about that. And that's kind of the moment you launched Power Selling Pros. Can you share that story and how that shaped your mission?
Yeah. So the company that I was brokering for, they couldn't afford me because it was 2008. So I couldn't be an employee, but they'd pay me if I brought them customers. It was kind of a sad deal. So I was paid for my results, which is fine. But Uzal said, yeah, find a client, get them doing direct mail and get them doing SEO and pay-per-click, and we'll pay you for those leads that come in. And Troy Nearings was one of those leads. And after about a month of generating SEO and pay-per-click leads for him, he called me in and he sat me down. It was this really big table. And he said, Brigham, I've got to put your services on hold. And he was one of three clients in 2008. I don't know if you remember 2008, but it was not fun. The housing market had just gone down dramatically, and people were losing their jobs left and right, and it was a bad deal. And so, tough time to be low on cash. And so, I could not let Troy go. I needed to find a way to keep him. And what's interesting is the night before, I had been working on just an idea of mine. I had just gotten over a failed business, and it's amazing how failure like that can get you introspective, right? I studied every self-help book on the planet, every business book, you name it. I was reading it, studying it. I just got done putting an idea together, and I put it on paper, and it looked really silly. Probably looked something like, I don't know, something like just a drawing, with a wow in the middle and 8 principles around that I wrote in there. And so Troy's sitting there and he's saying, yeah, I've got to put things on hold. And I said, wait a minute, Troy, why do you want to put it on hold? Tell me about these customers. Tell me what they're saying. Why is it so uncomfortable for you? He says, well, they're just price shoppers. And I said, okay, cool. But what does that mean? What are they asking? Well, they're asking for a ballpark price. Okay. On what? On a heating and cooling system. All right. Is that not what you sell? Yeah, that is what I sell, but we usually get customers call in ready to book using our services. Okay, so you get existing customers that call in, or people that otherwise trust you, and they're ready to book. That's usually what you get. Yes. In 2007, that's what you were receiving. Yes. Yes, exactly. Okay. What are you receiving now? Well, it seems like everybody just wants a ballpark price. They just want to know what your charge is coming out. They just want to talk to a technician. Okay. So why is that happening? Well, it seems like people are a little bit tighter with their money. All right. And why is that? Well, because in 2008, we just had this, back then we just had this marketing, this housing issue, right? This housing issue. And I said, okay, so everybody's really price conscious right now, but they still need their system fixed. And is that something that you do? Yes. Okay. So instead of stopping the advertising, the only leads that are coming in right now, basically, why don't we train the CSRs on how to book those calls and all those customers? Now, what Troy didn't know is that I used to answer the phones for a company called Arctic Air in Chico, California, many years prior. And I had a gentleman by the name of Kevin Comerford, a mentor of mine, who taught me how to answer phones. So I knew how to do it. I knew how to book these calls. I was very well trained by Kevin years earlier. And so when Troy said, okay, well, what do you have in mind? And I said, well, let me train them. Let me train them, teach them how to book these calls. And that way, you know how to book them. And he says, all right, I'll give you a month to do it. And within a month, his call conversions were up by 20%. Next thing I know, I get a call from his buddy, Tom Robichaud in Boulder, Colorado. And Tom calls me and he says, hey, I hear you're doing Troy's CSR coaching. And I said, well, in part, that's true, Tom, but I'm also doing his SEO and his pay-per-click. And he says, cool, that's great, but I have that all covered. But I'll pay you to train my CSRs. And so I said, okay, cool, let's do it. So we started training his CSRs as well. And then after that, those two guys got together and they referred me to Mike Gugliero in East Brunswick, New Jersey. And next thing you know, we're training CSRs, right? I'm hiring all my friends, and we're I don't have a lot of friends, and we're moving forward, growing this business. We went from training six trainees in our program to now over almost 1,400 trainees in our programs.
Awesome. And what problem were you solving back then? And why is call handling, you think, the still number one leak that you see in contractors' business today?
Why is it a leak? Or what am I noticing? Could you rephrase the question?
Yeah. Why do you think it's still one of the biggest leaks that you see in contractors' business today?
When I sit down with a contractor and I ask, hey guys, how often do you train your technicians? They go, man, I train my technicians every day. It's like a badge of honor. Oh yeah, every day I train them. Cool. How often do you train your in-office staff, whether it's a dispatcher, CSR, or what have you? And then it's crickets. They don't spend any time at all. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I would say that most business owners used to be technicians. They can relate a little bit better to techs. And they just think, okay, look, if I give the office staff a nice computer, a nice cubicle, and maybe a window where they can peer out every once in a while, that they should do a really good job. But that's just not the case. You've got to give them the same amount of attention, the same amount of training and incentives as you do your technicians and comfort advisors in order for them to be successful. And so I would say that it's simply because they do not pay attention to them like they do their technicians. They don't give them the same attention. And they need to. According to Service Titan, the industry average for calls versus set appointments is about 42%. This is also likely why the techies at big companies like Service Titan, as well as marketing companies, are fed up with it to the point where they're advising their clients to just sign up with AI and let AI handle every phone call, because they're tired of in-office staff not booking the calls that are coming in. And it's not just over the phone. It's also via direct messaging through social media, as well as online web forms, and everywhere else we're losing opportunities.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into that later. I want to get into actually how to differentiate between AI and how to implement AI with the CSRs, right? We talked about this last time. What makes a great CSR? What are the characteristics you look for if somebody wants to hire a CSR?
Somebody with a great attitude, first and foremost. Why do they have a great attitude? Well, a lot of reasons. We're going to teach them. We're going to teach them a completely new way to communicate, a completely new way to interact with others. And we use this tool called the Pattern for Excellence. Okay, so what is the Pattern for Excellence? Well, the Pattern for Excellence is a way to connect with the customer on an emotional level. When a customer gets on the phone, they have a human emotional need, several, as a matter of fact. And the first one is they want to feel understood. They need to feel understood. Before you get an address, before you find out where they're located, listen to them. Take time to ask questions such as, tell me more, how long has it been doing that? Those types of things. Get them talking about the situation itself. Chances are they're not going to feel comfortable with you. They're not going to be able to trust that they've called the right place until you show them that you truly understand their situation. And every one of these customers needs it. And it doesn't matter that you take 30 phone calls that are about the same type of call day in and day out. It's your 30th call of the day. It's their first call in 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, right? So you've got to make sure that you're present and you're ready for that call, and you're showing them that you understand. You're showing them that you care, and you're reassuring them that they've called the right place. If and when you do this, they're going to begin to feel safe about the company that they're working with. They're going to feel super comfortable, and they're going to get to the point where they're having just a little bit of fun, right? They're able to relax a little bit, knowing that the company that they're talking to, and the person they're talking to more specifically, is going to take great care of them. So that's what the Pattern for Excellence does. It teaches you to listen. It teaches you to care, to reassure the customer, to ask the right questions, create value, and be grateful. You master these principles, you're going to book the call, you're going to wow the customer. And of course, once we started coaching technicians as well using their own calls, we started teaching them the same thing because they lacked the ability to connect with the customer, just like the CSRs.
Got it. And you recommend using besides obviously, do you recommend having a structure, like a script that they follow, like all that structure? Like how do you implement that for CSRs?
Yeah, if you're a new CSR, I would absolutely have a script for you. It's a launching pad. It's a starting point, a benchmark. But our goal is to get to the point where they're following this script, this set of principles, where based on the tone and the intent of the customer, you're going to move in the direction that it makes the most sense. You're going to adapt. And of course, the same is true when working with technicians as well.
How do you train tonality in the CSRs?
Good question. We have them listen to their own phone calls. When they hear their own call, they're able to recognize that their tone was a little off, right? That somehow they seemed a bit disconnected with the customer. And sometimes they just need to hear it for themselves. Right? You can say, hey, your tone's a little bit off. Well, what does that even mean? Well, let's listen to a phone call. And they'll be able to recognize it for themselves. Very few are as tone deaf as you think. They recognize it. They go, wow, I must have had a bad day. When did I take that call? Oh, on the 16th? What was happening on the 16th? Oh, yeah, that day, my boyfriend was really being a jerk. And, and we get to the bottom of it and we go, okay, cool. How do we make sure that whatever's going on outside of work doesn't affect what's going inside? Right, what's going on inside the office, right? And let's not let those things affect your work. And so just them being aware goes a long way.
So you have listened to the calls, right? And then how do you what are the tones that they should be looking for and should actually talk to the client? Like what are the different tones that you train for?
So I'm glad you asked. Let's say that somebody's upset. If they're upset, we're going to give them a chance to explain the situation. Let's say that we've been out to the home twice already, which happens all the time. You guys have been out twice to my home. It's still not working. This is ridiculous. We need to agree with that. Okay, I'm going to pull up the notes. I'm going to take a look at everything. And sure enough, we've been out twice and it's still not working the way that it should. So number one, I'm going to agree. Number two, I'm going to empathize. Look, if I'm in your shoes, I'm not happy either. Okay, so I'm listening. I'm caring. So that's the setup, right? I listen, I care, I reassure. I wouldn't be upset either. I would absolutely be upset as well if this were to happen to me. I would not be happy about it. Here's what I'm going to do. As I'm looking at your notes, I've got a technician who is in your area. I'm going to dispatch him to you right now. His name is Billy. Billy's been in this industry for a very long time. He takes great care of our customers. Here's what I ask as I send him out. If you'll just judge us on how we respond to this from here on out. Here's my direct line. If you have any issues whatsoever, I want you to call me back. I'm going to call you as soon as Billy's done. I'm going to make sure it's running the way that it should. I'm also going to call you in a week. I'm going to put it on my schedule at this time and on this day. I'm going to call you and continue to call you just to make sure that the system itself is working. And I'll probably do that 2 or 3 times over the next 3 weeks. If you have any issues whatsoever, you still have my direct line. You can call me at any time whatsoever. So I appreciate the opportunity, the second chance to get you taken care of. And I'm so glad that you courageously called us back after the second time that it wasn't working for you. So we're going to get it right this time. Billy's fantastic and he's already on his way. I've already dispatched him. It'd be that path, that pattern, right? Now, what did I just do there? I showed that I was listening, right? I showed that I was listening. I showed that I cared, and I reassured them that we're going to get them taken care of. You do the same thing with an inbound call. Customer gets on the phone. They say, hey, I'm just looking for a ballpark price. Great. Tell me more about your situation. What's going on? Well, I've got this air conditioner. It's blowing hot air. Now, by the way, when I say, tell me more about your air conditioner, what's going on? That's me listening. Well, I've got this air conditioner. It's blowing hot air. All right. Well, how long has it been doing that? The last couple of days. Wait a minute. You've been dealing with this for the last couple of days? Yeah, man, I got to get this thing fixed. Well, look, you've called the right place. We can totally help you with that. When would you like us to come out? So what did I do? I listened. I cared. I reassured. So same process, same pattern, applied a little bit differently based on the call that's coming in. Angry caller, listen, empathize, reassure. A customer that wants a ballpark price, listen, empathize, reassure. So you follow the pattern, you follow the process, you just apply it a little bit differently based on the tone and the intent of the customer.
It's awesome. It's amazing. I hope you guys learned from that. That's amazing. How much marketing ROI is really determined by the way the first phone call is handled?
When it comes to marketing, could you rephrase that question?
Yeah, like how much of the ROI is impacted by the way the first call is handled?
Tremendously. Let's talk about that for just a moment. I don't know if you're familiar with Tommy Mello.
Yeah.
This is how Tommy Mello likes to do the math. What he does is he takes a contractor's top line revenue and he times it by 1%. Okay, so let's do some math together. I'm not fantastic at math. Those who are listening to this podcast are probably better than I am. So let's say that, let's just go with the average company that we work with. The average company that we work with is about $5 million in annual revenue. Okay. So times 0.01 gives us $50,000. And so $50,000 is 1% of your annual revenue. You're tracking what I'm saying so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's say that the industry average is in fact 42% according to Service Titan. All right. Let's say that the company I'm working with, because they're at 5 million, chances are they have a better call conversion than most. Let's say that they're at 60. Okay. And my objective would be to get them from 60 to 70. Now, if you were to make those few subtle changes just at the beginning of the phone call where you're listening, you're caring, you're reassuring, chances are I can increase it by 10%. All right. So I take that $50,000, that 1% of top line revenue, and I times it by 10. Why? Because I just increased my call conversion by 10%. So I take that 50,000 times it by 10 and I get $500,000. So what are we talking about? About $500,000. So what kind of impact does the way we handle the initial call have on your marketing dollars? About $500,000 if you're a $5 million shop.
Awesome. Yeah. And obviously, if you're a bigger company, it's going to make a bigger impact because it impacts more calls, right? And the math works out that way. It's a percentage, right?
It's millions. So for example, I just did this with a company that does 20 million a year, right? So same math, 20 million times 0.01, right? 1% of top line revenue. That's $200,000 for each 1% increase in call conversion. So same thing. We take that 200,000, we times it by 10. We increase from 60 to 70% calls versus at appointments. So times 10. I know some of you guys can do this in your heads. I can't. So it's $2 million. So yeah, it's in the millions. Not an exaggeration. These are very conservative numbers.
Yeah. You mentioned the importance of accountability last time we talked. Right, every call is recorded. Every role is under a microscope. Like, how is that impacting the trades? How has that change impacted the trades?
About every call being booked?
Yeah, every call being recorded and listened to.
Listen, it doesn't impact the trades at all if you're not listening to those calls and providing coaching and feedback on those calls. I'd say that we've been recording calls for the last 15 years. You know, when Service Titan first came out, there were other companies that were offering call recording, but they were charging for it. What Service Titan did is they kind of disrupted the industry, and they said, "Hey, we'll give you the ability to record all your marketing calls for free. You just got to use the CRM." So as they signed up for the CRM, they got their recording calls for free. It was a pretty cool deal, and a huge disruption. And obviously, you see where Service Titan is now. They've gone public. Pretty remarkable growth there. But there is no impact without regular coaching using those calls and providing accountability using those calls.
If you're an organization, right, HVAC company, and do 5 million a year, let's say, how often should they train their CSRs on a weekly basis, monthly basis? What does the schedule look like typically? How would you recommend that if you want to set it up?
So I can say how we do it here at Power Selling Pros. So we coach CSRs one-on-one twice a month using their own phone calls, and we do it over the phone. And it takes about a half hour per coaching session. And in the beginning of the call, we simply say, hey, let's talk about the goals that you set for 2 weeks ago. We go over those goals and we say, all right, now we're going to listen to a couple phone calls. We're going to see how closely you achieve those goals, right? Whether you've been able to execute your goals and be more successful over the phone. And so we listen to a few of those calls and we simply ask, how did you hear? What did you hear? And what do you think? Oh man, I should have done this or I should have done that, like building value before I present a dispatch fee, or I should have connected with the customer a little bit more in the beginning of the phone call. I asked for the address too soon. I didn't ask to book the call. I didn't even talk about the dispatch fee. I forgot about that. I probably should have talked about a service agreement, all those types of things that we'd cover and we'd coach using those types of calls. And then of course, at the end, after we've practiced several times, that best practice that we're looking for over the phone, we set some new goals and get them ready, get them scheduled for the next coaching session. So I'd say at least twice a month, you should be coaching your CSRs. And now that we have the ability to record technicians, you should do the same with every technician. Now, I recognize that some managers, you've got one service manager for 20 technicians. You need to find a way to coach them one-on-one for about a half hour, twice a month, whether it's CSRs, whether it's technicians. Now that you have the ability to record both what happens over the phone as well as what happens inside the customer's home, use those recordings to hold your team accountable, CSRs, dispatchers, technicians, and comfort advisors.
Yeah. You mentioned before, like the AI, right? Let's talk about AI. Can't replace empathy, right? They can't replace empathy. Why is emotional intelligence so important when customers call in frustrated or upset?
Yeah. Now let me just one thing you said there. Right now, they cannot really do a good job of expressing empathy over the phone. AI is going to continue to get better, so it's important for us to discuss what you do as it gets better. All right. We also probably ought to discuss why AI is here. But first, let me just address what you were saying there. It is very difficult for AI right now at this juncture to express empathy to the customer. Now, why is empathy so important? I think most business owners know, but just in case, let me cover why it's so important. So the customer has human emotional needs. Okay. They need to feel cared about. They need it. All right. It's going to be hard for them to trust you if you don't show them that you sincerely care. Now, right now, it takes a trained and incentivized CSR to do it right consistently well, day in and day out. Because there's a lot of ways to express empathy. And there are a lot of terrible ways to express empathy. There are a lot of CSRs who are untrained who are using words like, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, that's a fib. Most CSRs are not sorry to hear that somebody's system is busted because that call is going to keep their technician busy. It's going to keep food on the table. They're not sorry about it. And why are they apologizing? It wasn't them that took a baseball bat to it. They shouldn't have to apologize. It comes across as
anathematic.
Yeah, exactly. Contrived, fake. And a customer's not going to trust you if you come across that way. So instead, you want to say things like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Why? Because it is. Now, there are some out there who say, oh, but that's negative. You don't want to come across as negative. Listen, if they're feeling like it sucks, guess what? It sucks. And for you to say anything else will make the customer feel like you don't get them. You understand them. You see, more than anything else, they're looking for validation. Okay. And validation means, you know what? You shouldn't feel unworthy or unaccepted at all right now, the way that you're feeling, right? You're essentially saying you are worthy. You are accepted. See, these are emotional needs. People do need to feel worthy. They do need to feel accepted. And when they call in, they say, hey, my air conditioner is busted. It's broken. I've got a 4-month-old. He cannot go without AC. I've got a mother-in-law living with us, and she continues to complain about how the temperature is in my home, and I can't stand it any longer. If we were to respond with, all right, let me get your address, there's no validation there. So essentially, we're not saying that you are worthy. We're not saying that you're accepted. And by us not responding in kind, the same way that they're talking, it doesn't help them at all. Why? Because they don't feel validated. So that empathy, getting that right, is extremely important. And right now, AI does not have it right in general.
Yeah, and that takes training. That takes training. That takes understanding the emotional needs. And I actually listen to a lot of calls from my clients, and exactly what you said. They just try to book the appointment without, like empathizing with the client first, right? That's a very important part you just said, right? It's very important. It's very, very, very cool that you say that, right? And one of the things we do, like if we have like an actual client come in, is that it's the same thing you said, right? It's trust, right? If you're trying to sell someone, right, you're building trust. And also, same thing if we are a client success coach, they're building trust with the client with the marketing strategy. It's the same thing as you're saying, building trust, listening, empathy, and then building that trust. It's the same thing, something that AI can't do right now. But now let's talk about what AI can do, right? What does AI fit best, and how contractors can use it in tandem with trained humans for the best effect or maximum effect?
Right now, we don't do a very good job of handling overflow calls. We do not do a good job of responding quickly to our DMs, our direct messages via social media. Our online web forms often go unanswered for long periods of time, and we lose opportunity left and right. In those situations, speed to lead is king. We need to allow the AI to do that. If we're all on the phone, all the trained and incentivized CSRs are all on the phone, you should have AI that backs you up. For sure. There are very few live call centers that book 90% of their calls. Okay. There is a sister company that Power Selling Pros works with. It's called Booked by PSP. In fact, you can go to bookedbypsp.com. Over 100 agents, live agents, all trained in the pattern for excellence, all trained in Power Selling Pros services. And they book 93% of their phone calls. There are very few companies that do that. In fact, there are AI companies that are contracting with that sister company of Power Selling Pros, Booked by PSP, to handle the calls that the AI can't handle. So when a customer gets on the phone and they want a ballpark price, it'd be good if your AI says, you know what, let me put you in touch with a live agent, because it's probably not going to end well for the AI. If the customer just wants a ballpark price, chances are AI cannot handle that very well. Put them in touch with a live agent, right? If they say, what were the two that I went over? I want a ballpark price. I want to talk to a technician, and I want to know what you charge to come out. Those three calls are examples of calls that are very, very hard to book for AI to handle. And so it'd just be better for the AI to say, hey, let me put you in touch with a live agent. And then let somebody, now if it's after hours, so they get a live call center that knows what they're doing, that has the ability to book calls, wow customers, just like you would inside the office with your live humans, your trained and incentivized humans, and make sure that somebody who is ready for that type of call can handle. But other than that, there's a lot that AI can do to make sure that we book every call. So how do we use AI, or why do we use AI? It's for coverage, okay, to cover every base, to make sure we don't miss one call. That's what AI is for right now.
Yeah. So overflow and then speed to lead. That's the big things you're talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's very important. I always talk about that. Speed to lead is extremely important. Call overflows. That's a big challenge too, is actually getting clients to answer the phone. That's a big thing as well. So that's another thing that obviously having that first handled before you hire like an AI or even a call center, having that first handled, right? You mentioned last time we talked, you mentioned Chirp as an example of AI and human follow-up. Have you seen that system in practice? How would that work?
Yeah, Chirp is pretty cool. So the Chirp works proactively to your existing customers. How do you make sure that your customer continues to be a customer? You continue to communicate with them. So proactively, you can set up Chirp so that it's sending out texts, messaging, as well as other types of emails. It's sending out proactive messages to your customers to invite them to come back and use you again. Now, when those leads come back in, that's where we start to mess things up, right? Our in-house staff needs to catch those and, again, speed to lead and take care of it. Even if here's the really cool thing about Chirp is that they now have AI that if for whatever reason, within a certain period of time, we get to set the period of time. Let's say within 3 minutes. If you don't get back to that customer within 3 minutes, or if your human doesn't get back to that customer within 3 minutes, The Chirp AI will send out a reactive message saying what to do next, whether to book the call, whether to learn more about what the customer's need is, so on and so forth. So even in those situations, they've got a proactive strategy as well as a reactive strategy based on who's reaching out or who's responding to their marketing, their advertising. Very cool thing that everybody should have. Chirp continues to get better in our industry.
Awesome. One thing I forgot to ask you earlier was what are the KPIs that you measure CSR success or failure with? What are the common KPIs you look for?
So the first one obviously is call conversion, right? In addition to call conversion, we want to see if they're creating a connection in the beginning of the call. So we listen to the first 30 seconds of the call and we see if they're creating that connection, listening, caring, reassuring. We want to see if they're building value before they're presenting a dispatch fee. Very important, because sometimes they get out there and the customer's like, wait a minute, nobody told me about a dispatch fee. Or they're saying, wait a minute, they said it was $150 for you to come and fix this. And you're talking about switching out the blower motor and you're going, no. This is going to cost a whole lot more than the $150 it costs for us to get out here. So we're going to be measuring whether or not the CSR is doing a good job of explaining how the dispatch fee works, so that there's no confusion by the time the technician gets out there. We also want to see if they're selling service agreements proactively over the phone. Some people argue that you should leave it to the technicians, but I think that's a mistake. You should sell service agreements when the customer's feeling the most amount of emotional angst, all right, where they're feeling some pain. And they're feeling that pain while they're calling for services. Now, if the technician goes out, they fix the situation, they fix the problem, and then they try to sell a service agreement, well, now they're feeling artificially comfortable air. You know what I mean? Tough time to sell a service agreement because you just fixed it. Better to do it over the phone. Mr. Jones, I'm looking at your notes. I noticed that you've called in a couple of times with things like this over the years. I'm wondering why you don't have a preventative maintenance plan with us. You see, it prevents things like this from happening. See, if we can get that done over the phone, which is one of the reasons why we track it, man, that way the technician can just focus in on airflow and indoor air quality. All right. Those two things are the two things I want him focused on, because some of the main reasons why a blow motor goes out is because it's working too hard to circulate air throughout the customer's home. So if they've got shut vents or even shut doors, that makes the blower motor work a whole lot harder to push air through the system. Okay. The way a heating and cooling system works is it has to have airflow, enough airflow to basically transfer heat from inside the house to outside the house, or in reverse, heat from outside the house to inside the house, right? So it's all about heat transfer, and heat transfer occurs effectively because of airflow. Now, the other thing we want the technician to focus in on is indoor air quality. In other words, the quality of air that you're breathing inside the home. Sometimes the air inside the house is 7 times more polluted than the air outside. That's a problem. We want to be able to do the right test, figure out where the air quality is, and provide solutions. So our goal is to improve the quality of life for every home that we go into, for every homeowner that we work with. And so if we can sell that service agreement over the phone, it opens up the door for the technician to do what they should do, the thing that they do the best, which is improve the lifestyle of that homeowner, not sell service agreements.
Yeah. Okay. So you talked about booking rate, appointment rate, and service agreements. What do you give a commission, right? What kind of, you give commission to the CSRs based on if they sell a service agreement? Do you track that as well?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So let's say they take 30 phone calls a day. The CSR takes 30 phone calls a day. And if they're listening to this, they're going, I take far more than that. Awesome. You are awesome. Let's just say 30 for the sake of simple math, right? So you take 30 calls. Let's say that 20 out of those 30 at the end, when you offer a service agreement, they say, you know what, I'm good. And you're not going to push it over the phone. You're simply going to say, you know what, if you change your mind, no big deal. If you change your mind, just talk to your technician about it. Cool. So what that means is that 10 out of 30 respond with something like this. Wow, that sounds interesting. Can you tell me more about it? What is this preventative maintenance thing that you're talking about? Well, yeah, it prevents things like this, the thing you're dealing with right now, from happening. We come out in the spring, we come out in the fall. Make sure your system's running at peak efficiency. The best part about it is it prevents things like this from happening. If you want it, I can get you going on it right now. Well, how much is it? It's $20 a month. Okay, so let's say that we pay the CSR $10 per service agreement. So let's say that out of the 10 that say they're interested over the phone, 2 decide to move forward. Now you have 2 every day. Once again, it's a numbers game. You just got to ask at the end of every phone call. You get at least 2 a day. That means you're making an extra $20 a day, right? $20 a day times 5 a week, it's $100. 100 times 50. Even though there are 52 weeks in a year, we don't work 52 weeks. So let's just say 50 for the sake of simple math, right? So 100 times 50, it's $5,000 a year. What would your CSR do with an extra $5,000 a year? You see, our goal here is to keep that CSR in that seat, right? We don't want them moving up or moving sideways or moving out of the company. One of the biggest problems the industry has is CSR turnover. So what we want to do is keep them there in that seat. How do we do that? Well, we provide training. We give them the same amount of attention we give technicians, and then we pay them for amazing performance. So if they're selling service agreements over the phone, 2 a day, they can make an extra $5,000 a year. Now it's not just a job, it's a career, because they can make as much money as they want. So just like a technician, just like a comfort advisor, a CSR, you want to put them in a position where they can make as much money as they want. And that's how you do it. Training and incentives.
Awesome. You talked about the Chick-fil-A versus McDonald's analogy for contractors. Can you explain the difference and why most home service companies need to choose one model?
So I usually talk about this when it comes to AI. Some, instead of taking all the steps that we're talking about, training CSRs, incentivizing them, why don't I just switch over to AI? It sounds like a lot of trouble and too much difficulty. Well, here's the deal. People like working with people. They really do, especially if those people are performing at a high level. So they need connection. And how do you make sure that that connection is created even long before we get out to the customer's home? I guess what I'm trying to say is without the human element, a customer-centric business is not going to be customer-centric for very long. So you need to decide now what your model is going to be. When you go to McDonald's, there isn't anybody there. There's 2 big screens and you order on that screen. Now, McDonald's has proven that they've increased sales through upselling using that screen. They actually order more on the screen than they would through the window or through the intercom outside in the drive-thru. And when you get your order, they don't even look at you, right? They just put the meal down. They make sure it's you that ordered this meal. And then they go back to what they were doing before. There's not even eye contact. There's no connection there whatsoever. And that works for them. The other thing is you don't have a line. You get the food immediately, and you get it for a lesser price than you would, say, for example, at Chick-fil-A. And McDonald's is successful. But keep in mind that they've got to be faster than anybody else, and they got to have the lowest price. That is a model that is successful. And if that's the model you want, that's fine. However, in this industry, PE groups were not attracted to it because of the low price. They weren't attracted to it by the units per sale, right? Or the amount of units you're selling every day, day in and day out. They're attracted to it because of the high margins and the customer centricity that came along with it. So that, to me, doesn't look like the McDonald's model at all. It's not the Amazon model at all. Instead, it's the Chick-fil-A model. So what's happening at Chick-fil-A? Well, the biggest issue that Chick-fil-A has is getting people through the lines. Where they lose people is waiting in that long line. So what did they do? They doubled down on the amount of people that are ushering you through that line. So instead of getting rid of people, they actually doubled down on the amount of people that are helping the customer. So you get your order taken a mile back in the line, but it's somebody with a smile. It's somebody that's saying my pleasure, so on and so forth. All the feel-good stuff that you get from a connection, right? From a customer-centric business. You finally get there and you say, hey, do you really freshly squeeze all those lemons to make that lemonade, that yummy lemonade? And of course, they don't skip a beat. They simply say, oh yeah, we do it every day. Would you like to try some? As if we've never had it before. And then sure, we say absolutely. They give us a little cup and we pretend like we've never tried it, but it's amazing. And of course, we ordered an extra large. We pay almost twice as much at Chick-fil-A as we would McDonald's. And we don't care that we had to wait in that line. Why? Because the handshake of the host affects the taste of the roast. It gives us the ability to create an amazing experience for the customer, an experience that they will wait for, obviously, and an experience that they'll pay more for, obviously, because it happens day in and day out at Chick-fil-A. So what kind of model do you want? You need to decide now and then use AI appropriately to help you execute that model.
Yeah. What does it look like in practice to deliver a Chick-fil-A level of customer experience in the trades?
So it's a great question. And I think the best way to answer is to answer with one more experience that I had. When I first moved to southern Utah, I moved to a town called Hurricane. It's a Hurricane's about 20 miles away from Zion's National Park. It's a very beautiful park. And love it here, really enjoy it. But there were some things that were going on with my house. So I called a plumber. And the main reason why I called the plumber is because I know a little bit about plumbing. I've been in this industry a long time. And I looked at the Rinnai tankless water heater, and I could tell that something wasn't right. It wasn't installed properly. That because water wasn't instant like it should be coming out of my shower. So I called a plumber. Well, as I called the plumber, the person over the phone was amazing. She listened. She cared. She reassured me. And all of a sudden, we started talking about all the other things that I could probably have done in my home. For example, we were talking about my kitchen sink, how it didn't have a water purification system. And I use a ton of water. I've got a gym in my house. I would like to have water purification so I can just have clean water without having to buy a bunch of bottled water. It'd be a whole lot easier if I just had purified water coming out of my kitchen sink. It'd be awesome if we had that. And while we were talking, I also noticed that in my gym, I've got a faucet there, and I don't want to have to walk from my kitchen to my gym or back and forth to get purified water. So I thought maybe I should get purified water as well there. And then we started talking a little bit more, and I realized that, you know what, the air here is a little bit drier than usual. And so I'm probably going to need some humidifiers. And if I get those humidifiers with the heating and cooling company, chances are they're going to need to connect it to some hot water. And I'm going to need a plumber for that. So we start talking about all these things. What are we doing? We're dreaming together. And she's writing all these notes. All right. And so then the dispatcher, after I'm done with that call, the dispatcher calls and says, hey, I'm going to send out the plumber. He's fantastic. He's going to take great care of you. I noticed that while you were talking to the CSR, you were talking about, and then all the list of items again that I was looking at. Remember, why did I call? I called for the Rinnai. I called because of my instant hot water system wasn't working. My tankless water heater wasn't working right. It wasn't installed properly. But they had this entire list, and then of course the dispatcher kind of adds to that list a little bit. And then the plumber comes out. First thing he does is he pulls out his paperwork and he says, hey, it looks like you called me out to take a look at your tankless water heater. But as I'm looking at your notes here, there's a few other things that you'd like to have done. And he goes over that list of things that we'd like to have done. Now, I didn't have the humidifiers with me. So he said, cool, when would you like me to come back to install the water to connect to the humidifier? And so I called the heating and cooling guy, set up a date for the humidifiers to come out and be installed. And then I called him back and he said, okay, let me talk to my dispatch to see if that's a day that works for me as well. And so now he's not a plumber anymore, is he? He's my plumber. Okay. He's my plumber. And so he comes out every 6 months because the second time he came out, he said, hey, Brigham, I'm looking at your water softener. And I noticed that you don't have any water pellets in your water softener. That's not good for your water softener. If you wanted, I can come out every 4 months and make sure that it's full. And I can do that in the pool house as well as the main house. If you want, I can do that. I'll set it up with the dispatcher. Okay, cool. You see, that's the difference. The difference is people who care, people who listen, people who reassure me over and over and over again for the experience that I want. Now, as far as the price is concerned, I don't care. Okay. And it's not because I don't care about money. I care about money. Of course I care about money, but I care more about my quality of life. And when I feel like you care about my quality of life as much as I do, the price matters less and less and less. You see, it's the customer. It's the Chick-fil-A model. It's the customer-centric model. And the thing you got to be careful about, especially with the advent of AI, is the human element. Okay. If you take out the human element in a customer-centric business, it won't remain customer-centric for very long.
Yeah. Awesome. Can you share a story of a contractor who transformed the results simply by just upgrading the way they handle calls?
Yeah. So Chad Simpson of Simpson Salute, last year he was doing 21.5 million. Right now he's on track to do 26.5 million. And the reason why, simply, he said he didn't change anything else. In fact, if you look him up on YouTube, you'll see where I caught him on video saying this. He changed nothing except the way that his calls were being handled and increased his revenue by $4 million a year. So those types of results happen day in and day out. Our objective is to get you in the 90s. All right. Tommy Mello's team, he has 62 CSRs. They all work remotely and he books 90% of his phone calls. That is unheard of. 62 agents booking an average of 90% of their calls. And here's what's even more crazy than that. We have our own call center of 100 agents, a sister company called Booked by PSP that books 93% of their calls, an average of 93% of their phone calls. We know how to do this better than anybody, to the point where our contractors are saying, hey, love how you're teaching our CSRs and dispatchers to connect with customers over the phone using the pattern for excellence. Can you do the same thing with technicians? And the cool thing is that with Rilla, with Field Pro, with Field Spark, we now have the ability to record and provide coaching to technicians as well as comfort advisors. And we've been doing it. We've been doing it ever since that technology has come out. So the human experience, right? From beginning to end, we have the ability to affect it because those calls and that technology is there. So yeah, AI is phenomenal. It's incredible. But your goal is to slowly work your way into it. AI is going to continue to get better. And as it does, you want to make sure that your CSRs and dispatchers evolve, adapt to what the AI is doing. But you also want them calling out. Let's say that the AI is taking that first pass, right? That first call that's coming in and they book it. Phenomenal. They do a great job. The technology does great. You want to call that customer. You want to call that customer. And the first question you want to ask them is how was your experience with the AI? Now, if the experience was good, fantastic. Then you can talk about other services that we provide. I'm looking at your notes. I noticed that you've only ever called us for heating and cooling. Did you also know that we offer plumbing? Or, hey, I'm looking at your notes and I noticed that you've had us out a few times, but you still don't have a preventative maintenance plan. It prevents things like this, the thing you're dealing with right now, from happening. Would you like to talk about it? So even if AI is booking during the initial pass, that's fine. Call the customer proactively. Hey, I noticed that you were scheduled for tomorrow. I want to make sure that that's a good time for you because we just had an opening in our schedule and a technician is in your area. Would you like to have it done today? All right. Now, if a customer is scheduled for 2 days from now and my schedule is open today, my job as a CSR or dispatcher is to keep today's board full. So great. When the AI books it in the morning, it shows the schedule's full. But by the afternoon, there have been 2 people that call in to reschedule, and there's a technician that says he's done early in a specific home. You're not going to have them sit idle, right? You're not going to have the technician just sitting around. No, you're going to call tomorrow's list and the list in 2 days, and you're going to say, hey, can we come out today? Why? Because we got to keep our technicians busy today. You will always have something to do in the office. Always. If nothing else, you can outbound, right? Let's say the comfort advisors went on a couple leads that they didn't close. Hey, last week, Billy was out there. He offered you a price on a new system and you needed some time to think about it. I wanted to follow up. And if you close that deal, you should probably be compensated for that. But our goal is for CSRs and dispatchers to be proactive, as opposed to when the phone rings, they go to they say to themselves, oh, the AI will pick that up. Okay. That's how you get fired. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I didn't ask you before was on the CSR training. Obviously you mentioned some of the technician field along software like AIs like Rilla that can start training on the field. What do you like? What kind of you said you're recording the calls. What are you using to record the calls, and how are you using AI to analyze those calls with the CSRs?
Yeah. So the cool thing about the AI that's coming out to track technicians while they're in the field is that you can that call could be 2 hours long. So the specific things we look for is connection to begin the phone call. We want to see the technician create an environment of safety, comfort, and fun inside the home within the first 10 to 15 minutes. So we can jump on the AI and ask specific questions and say, hey, look, show me where the technician created a relationship of safety, comfort, and fun inside the home. We go to that part of the call and we're able to listen to that part of the call. Where did the technician simply say, hey, look, if there's anything I notice that's outside of manufacturer specifications, are you all right if I bring that to your attention? I want to go where they said that, right? When they get back with the customer and they say, okay, I have some options here for you. I'm going to type into the AI, show me where they presented options. Okay, technicians, what they have a tendency to do is they go in and they say, okay, it just needs a capacitor. They switch out the capacitor and they give them a price for a few $100 and then they leave, they get it going again. What is the issue with that? Well, if they need a new capacitor, chances are there's something in there that's not working. Okay. Is it the blower motor? Is it the capacitor? Is it the metering device? What is it? What is it that's making the capacitor, need to be replaced earlier than it should? So you've got to go in, you've got to do all those tests, and then you got to bring it to the customer's attention. You can say, hey, look, I can get it going right now. We can throw a capacitor in, no problem whatsoever, but I've noticed that there's a couple of parts that probably need to be replaced. We can replace this part and that part. So if you just want to switch out the capacitor, it's going to be a few $100. If you want me to switch out a couple of parts, it's going to be about $3,000. And if you're looking at it and you want a more long-term fix, we could probably just talk about upgrading it. Now, I like to fix things. What I would do in that case is I'd send out a comfort advisor. And of course, I would want to use the AI to see if that's exactly what the technician did, right? Provided options and got the customer to a yes or a no, or for a comfort advisor to come out and give a price on a new system.
What's one piece of advice you would give contractors listening who want to double their book calls without spending another dollar on marketing?
You need to train your CSRs. Train your CSRs, train your dispatchers, train your technicians, train your comfort advisors, and use it using their own calls. They can tell you till they're blue in the face that they're doing everything you've taught them to do. The only way you know for a fact is if you're recording those calls and looking at the reports and you're tracking their performance. If you don't have time to do it, in your heart of hearts, if you don't have time to do it, then get somebody from the outside to do it for you.
Yeah. What do you see the future of AI? You said obviously AI is getting better. Do you ever see a scenario where it can potentially replace humans, like at least on the customer service side?
It can replace what humans are doing now. But if you take out humans completely to monitor it, things are bound to go wrong. Not only that, if you sound the same as everybody else and people are having the same experience as everybody else, what else do you have to compete on aside from price? So the thing you want to be careful about as you automate everything is you've got to ask yourself, how do I insert the human element to create connection? I think there needs to be a balance. You've got to find a balance. And I'd go very slowly. I wouldn't go all in on AI right now. I would move very slowly. Don't be the one to pioneer this thing because you'll lose a lot of opportunity in the meantime. And when it comes to AI, I would be the last person. I would want to hear several contractors say, this part of AI is amazing. It's tried and true. It works. Cool. I'll use that. And then I would make sure AI is there to cover so we don't lose any leads. Okay, that's number one. I would continue to have humans be involved in as much of the process as possible, and not just any human, but trained and incentivized humans to create the connection with the customer. So you see the balance there, AI for coverage, humans for connection. And the way to make those two things happen is phenomenal leadership. Okay, my concern with leaders these days is that they mask poor performance with AI. Instead of training their team, instead of incentivizing them, they just say, forget it. I don't trust you any longer. I'm putting in AI. And that is a mistake because the customer still needs human-to-human connection. So you've got to find creative ways to keep the human involved and have that balance. So cover everything with AI. Have humans create the connection, train and incentivize humans, and then choose to be a phenomenal leader that does both as opposed to one or the other.
Awesome. Where do people find you?
Go to powersellingpros.com, POWERSELLINGPROS.com. There's a big, huge link on that front page of that website where you can click on a demo link. We can go through and show you what we do and how we do it. And we can see how our services fit into your process and your procedures so that we can keep your team performing at a high level.
Awesome. Brigham, thank you, man. I really appreciate you joining the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to AI and Marketing for Home Service Pros. If you got value from today's episode, do us a favor. Follow the show, share it with a contractor friend, and leave a quick review. Want help using AI or smarter marketing to grow your business? Head to contractormarketingpros.net and book your free strategy call.